You're listening to She's the Business podcast, and today we're talking about how to raise your prices ethically and not lose clients, but actually grow your clientele. So it's coming right up. Stay tuned. All right, so today we're talking about how to raise your prices and do it ethically, do it without losing clients, and actually grow your clientele, which sounds like the golden trifecta, doesn't it? Is it too good to be true? Well, no, it's not. People do it, and I've helped many of my clients do that as well. So I wanted to take this time today to have a chat. Let's have a really open, honest chat about pricing, because goodness, women find it hard. It must be the number one struggle. I'll call it the silent struggle because I think a lot of people don't talk that much about it. It's still a bit of a taboo topic, right? When we're talking about money and pricing, lots of people don't feel comfortable sharing about it. And so what happens is you sit there behind the scenes with your spreadsheet or your calculator, going over your rates and pricing and figuring it out. Is it too high? Is it too low? What happens if they don't buy? Oh my goodness. You find something that you're happy with, you go to send it out, and then you suddenly get a case of the fear. And I know so many people who say they knock off more money right at the very last minute before they've even sent it out to their clients. So how do we overcome this challenge? How do we actually get into a place where you're pricing your service at a place that feels great to you, that feels amazing, that feels like this is absolutely a great exchange for the value that I'm providing? Not too high, not too low, just that really good sweet spot. That's where we're wanting to get to. Now, I know that there's a lot of coaches out there, and I've seen this as well, where they'll just say, just change the number. It's really easy. You want to raise your prices, change the number. And then other ones that have got all kinds of weird sales tactics where they're like, add 20 million bonuses and all of this added value stuff so that it feels like it's, very little amount for what you're getting. But actually, I tend to disagree with a lot of that. It's not just about changing the number. At the end of the day, yes, we are going to change the number on the page, but that's not the first thing that you start with, because if you're not really in the right space and not energetically aligned to that number, it doesn't matter what you put on the page. It is really not going to sell. So there is a process that we go through to get to the number, and it's far more than just simply changing the number. And I also don't want you to get into a place of over-delivering to overcompensate for a price that you feel is too high, because there's literally nothing worse than overwhelming your clients with all of these added extras and bonuses that they don't even care about, that aren't even important to them, that you're literally just putting in there to make it look like it's more value. That is a terrible, terrible tactic. Please, if you're listening, if you've seen people doing it, if you've heard of that as something to make your price seem cheap, please don't do that. People can see through it. Plus, I think it's actually more often than not making people step away from signing up because it looks overwhelming. They're like, oh my God, do I have to go through and do all these things in order to get the value? It just feels like far too much. So what do we do? Well, let's have a chat. If you are in a place right now, obviously where you're feeling like you're undercharging, so you're not charging what you know that you probably should be, because you're probably aware of what others out there in your space are charging, or maybe what it was like back in the days when you were working in a job, if you did something similar then, and you might have insights as to what people pay for this kind of service you offer. In the corporate world, you probably start to, your inner critic riles up, you start to feel a bit of shame and maybe even a little bit sick at yourself for how cheap you're actually offering your service. That's okay. We have all been there. A real frustrating thing is when you are undercharging, you are sort of cutting off the flow before it can happen. One of the best things in a business is your business is not about you. This is not your personal income. Your business is making an income, and out of that, it needs to pay you. So the income your business makes needs to be more than the expenses that the business spends in order for it to pay you and to then maybe pay others. And whatever that buffer is on top that you haven't then used for expenses or paying yourself or taxes and all these other things, well, that is the money that can reinvest back into the business. Just imagine what can happen, the good that can be spread, the growth that you can ignite. I'm going to use that word. I was trying to think of a word that was a bit less cliched, but the growth that you can literally create yourself simply by having a business that is higher in the profit than what you need it to be. You can invest back into the business. You can hire other people. The flow of money then grows and grows and grows. The more that comes through you, the more that goes out through you as well, in a really good way, because of course you've already paid yourself, right? So that additional buffer there, wow, you're investing in things that will help grow the business, help you help more people. And in what you're spending to do that, that's also helping others too. So there's just so much good to be had when we have money in the hands of the right people, of really high integrity people who have really good hearts. When people like that have money, they do good things with it. And we need more of that in the world, right? We need a lot more of that in the world right now. Some of the other reasons why, the consequence of undercharging, which we really need to be aware of and step away from, is thinking about how that's actually harming your business. So I've seen and experienced as well, when you do charge too little or too low, that is reflected in the quality of the client that you end up attracting. And unfortunately, the lower you charge, the more higher maintenance, usually the more negative experiences people find that they're having. So they'll say, well, sometimes they even try to give something away for free. And then those people are very demanding and they have high expectations, and can be either non-committal, not even doing anything, not responding. They become more of a headache than what it's worth. And then they'll say, but my clients on the highest packages, or who are paying the most, they're an absolute dream. They're a breeze to work with. And it doesn't sound like it would be logical, but I've heard this far too many times for it to be any sort of coincidence. It is literally a truth. I think that anyone who has experienced the polar opposites at each end, you would probably agree, right? Now, we don't want to get you in a space where you're starting to resent your business or resent your clients either. And that is something that does happen. When you're undercharging, you know that you are, and they're getting something that's great value. If you've decided that you're going to do it intentionally and you're making a choice to undercharge for a reason, then you're usually okay with it. But when you feel like you have to charge that little for whatever reason, maybe the competition, maybe that's what other people in your market charge, maybe you aren't confident in charging something more, but you kind of know that you should be, and there's that little should voice in the back of your mind, the inner guilt and shame that goes along with it, resentment forms. And that is something that we really want to get a handle on quickly and shift, because imagine what happens when you start resenting your clients, resenting the work that you're doing. It's like when you have a job that you've kind of grown out of. You know what it probably was like. I definitely had that experience many times, where I was in a job and it stopped being interesting and exciting because I was ready for something else. I was ready for a bigger challenge. I was ready to step up. And the longer you stay in it, just the more disengaged, disempowered you really feel in that place. And you turn up to work just because you're getting paid, and it's all this negative, heavy, and not fun. Now, do you want to be doing that in your own business? Well, no. So as soon as there is any inkling, any tiny little sign of resentment happening, then that to me, or to you, should be a giant sign that, well, let's have a look at the pricing. Let's have a look at who you're working with. What is the work that you're doing? It looks like you've grown, you've evolved beyond where you are right now. So time to change, right? Be in a place where you think, how lucky am I to have this business, to be showing up every day, doing what I'm doing? This is exactly where I want to be, and to be excited about the future as well and where it might go to, because hey, it's unwritten. I love that song, that it's, unwritten. This is your story. From today, it is unwritten. We might have an idea of what's going to happen, but you never really know. And that's the beautiful thing about it. You're the author of your own story. So that is, I guess, just setting the scene of where we're at the moment, what to look for, some signs, some things that may have been going on for you and your business. Now, you might be feeling like you are a little bit trapped in your pricing. And this is something common that I've had people inside my program, Business Jam, when we've started to look at the offer model and like what it is they're offering in the pricing. I get a lot of people saying to me, well, I can't charge more. This is what I need to charge because that's what other people in the industry charge. And there is a lot of kind of pushback. There's also fear that changing pricing, changing the rates is going to mean that those clients will disappear, that they will be like, they can't afford anymore. I get that. People say to me, well, they can't afford to pay anymore. So if I raise my prices, then, they are seeing the doom and gloom and that's the end of their business. It'll be gone forever. But what they're not seeing is that currently the rate that you're charging is determining who it is that you're attracting. And so you're attracting a certain portion of the market because you're positioning yourself in that place with that level of pricing. Now, there's a whole bunch of people, unless you're already at the top end and already like the most premium, and I would probably doubt that if you're here listening to this podcast. Most women tend to be at the middle to lower end of their market. So if you are, looking at that and thinking, I couldn't charge anymore, just have a think about the people who haven't even been on your radar yet. You're not on their radar. Like, they are in a place where they're looking for high quality. They're looking for something different. Quality clients are really driven more by, they want to get to the outcome faster, more efficiently, less mucking around, less headache. They're usually busy people, as we all are, but they're willing to pay the money for the better experience. Now, when someone is very, very price conscious and very much down the lower end of the market, these are the people who have all the time in the world. They don't mind if it takes them forever. They just want to do it for the cheapest amount possible. And that's fine. They want to make life hard for themselves and go on that longer journey, then they can do that. But you don't have to be the one who goes along that with them. Why wouldn't you want to work with someone who's maybe ready to commit at a higher level and get in there and get it done faster? And it's simply that you haven't been positioning yourself in this space for those people. So the great news is, guess what? When you decide you're ready to raise your prices and position yourself in a space where you're targeting and are more aligned to that higher quality client, there's a whole bunch of people out there that you haven't even been in contact with yet because you haven't been on that same energetic frequency. You just aren't even on the radar with them. So instead of it being, hey, your business is going to, explode in a bad way when you raise your prices, my clients find they raise their prices and it explodes in a good way, as in they usually end up having, well, they may decide to say goodbye to some of their past clients, but they welcome in the ones that they're like, wow, I didn't even imagine I would be working with this level, this quality of client. And literally can happen so quickly. So I want you to, whenever we're talking about this kind of stuff, your brain will send you down the worst case scenario pathway. It's going to show you the doom and gloom, the business has gone forever, worst decision ever, all of that. What if it just completely kills the business? And I want you always to notice that you're doing that, but then to think, well, what else could happen? There's always more than one option for a story. How are you going to end the story? What's the next chapter going to be? There's not just one story that you can write. So what is the other story? What are you not seeing? because your brain loves to show you all a risk and show you all a danger, but it doesn't show you the opportunity until you train it. You've got to be really conscious at training yourself to think about the possibility and the opportunity, because they are there in equal balance. It is like a universal law that you can't have risk and danger without there being the opposite also, the opportunity and the reward. They both exist and they both are probably equal. In fact, I usually think there's probably more opportunity and more reward, but we'll tend to focus on the risk and the danger because, we like to scare ourselves, don't we? That's why people watch horror movies or go on roller coasters, because they love the thrill of the fear. Let's not do that in our business. Let's get off the roller coaster, don't go and watch the horror movie. Watch the one that makes you feel empowered and excited instead. Now, one of the other reasons that people have a huge barrier to raising their prices is the judgment. So the minute you start saying it, they've got voices in their head saying, oh, well, who is she to charge that? And look at her, who does she think she is? And people are going to think that I'm too expensive, and that's a really negative thing in a lot of people's minds. And they conjure up all of this chatter. Now, the interesting thing is, have you actually heard someone saying that to you? Maybe you have heard someone saying it about someone else somewhere online, in the jungle, in the online jungle at some point. Maybe you heard someone say that about someone else, and then you've now taken that on to think, well, if I raise my prices, then they'll say that about me too. But have you ever thought that yourself about someone who is charging a reasonable fee for what it is that they do? Probably not. I don't know. I can't think of the last time I ever thought, gosh, that person's charging way too much. Who does she think she is? She's so expensive. I don't even remember thinking that, except in my own inner critic about myself. So the likelihood is that we're creating voices that actually don't exist. And even if they do, I want you to take a moment to see who it is who's saying it. I guarantee the people who are out there criticizing others, saying, look at them, they're too expensive. Who are they to charge that? These are people who are struggling with their own pricing battles. They probably are feeling the shame and the guilt, the frustration themselves, feeling trapped in what they're charging themselves, and they're kind of taking it out on someone else because they've been able to break free of it and they've been able to charge something higher. And it's so interesting how people want to bring others down, back down into their pain, instead of thinking, wow, that's inspiring. Maybe I could be like them too. There are no people out there who have, broken out of the undercharging space and are in a place where they're feeling really good about their prices, who is criticizing others out there. They are not the people doing the criticizing. It is literally only the people who either are having no success at all on the starting line or are so deep in their own hole that they've dug for themselves where they're charging so little, they've got huge resentment. Those are the ones who are online on their keyboards complaining and, ranting about others and what they're charging. And now that you've heard that, you'll probably start to notice it, because anytime you see someone doing it, I want you to look and see, well, who are they and how successful are they? It's not the ones who are successful who are, speaking down to anyone else. It is literally only the ones who probably are behind where you are. So if anyone was ever to criticize you, you can think, gosh, well, what could I do to help them feel more inspired, to feel more motivated? Because the fact that they're even saying those things means that they're feeling they're behind and they've got resentment and maybe jealousy. Goodness, the old jealousy that rears an ugly head at times, doesn't it? Makes people say things that they probably shouldn't say. But we can look and help others, especially other women, with a lot of compassion, because it's easy to remember a time where you might have been in that place, and you can look back and think, yeah, it sucked. It sucked when I was charging less than I knew I should be, and I want to be able to charge more and to do it without feeling any sort of shame or guilt around it, right? So why are we charging too little? Well, what are the causes of it? I think there's really three key things that have happened or that are causing you to be in the place where you are right now if you're charging, we'll just say less than what you should be, or less than what you know that you could be. I don't like to put the shoulds on people. I think that word is really dangerous. It's like no one ever should anything or not. But if you could be charging more, if you know in your gut right now that what you do could be worth more and you could charge more because other people are, then, this is the conversation we need to be having. So that's okay. We're going to remove the shoulds. Should, could, would, whatever. You can, if you want to, charge more. Why we might not be. Maybe your initial pricing that you had when you started worked. And so you've got clients and that's happening and you've just literally got kind of stuck there. We're stalled there because it's been working and you've been afraid to, rock the boat just in case the clients leave and no new ones come and, what we've already talked about. So that could be reason number one. The second category are the people who feel really constrained by the market. Some markets much more so than others, where there seems to be a bit of a standardized pricing going around and you feel like, oh, how can I rock the boat? That's normal as well. Usually it's also where you might have a tendency to compare yourself to others. And that tends to keep you stuck in this place where you can't step outside of what the others are doing because of the fear, well, what happens then? Whereas you feel comfortable when you are comparable to others in your space. That is one of the most interesting phenomenons, right? Because the more that you are comparable to others, as in you're, same, but different and in that space, just really the more invisible you're being. And therefore, the more price conscious your clients tend to be because they don't have much else to compare you on except price. When we're being the same. So one of the best ways to get out of that place where you are in a price competitive place is to actually just be totally different. Like, wow, it's surprising, it's different, it's fresh, it's new. The clients then aren't putting you in the same bucket as all the others. So they're not comparing you like your apples and apples. They are thinking, well, over here I've got a watermelon and over there there's an apple. Well, they're not the same. I'm not expecting them to be priced the same. We're different. So the differentiation is something that we work on in Business Jam so that you are seen differently. You're in your own space. That gives you a lot more personal power, a lot more ability to choose the right price for you, which is fantastic. And honestly, just so much easier. Let's stop all those hours of deliberating over pricing and actually just know your price and be happy and confident with it. The third reason why you may be undercharging and really feeling stuck in that place is a lack of authority that you might have, as in you're one of many in a market, and when you are not seen as a leader or you're not actually being in yourself, you don't have the identity of being a thought leader, of being somebody who's in that power, that personal power I was just talking about, then you're highly likely to be undercharging as well. And that's okay. All of this is totally fixable. These are all sort of the signals and signs that we go through inside Business Jam. I have this 5-part framework called the Prime Framework, which I designed that helps women to really identify that positioning, the right positioning in the market where you have authority, to develop the offers that are priced properly for profit, but also really reasonably as well. It's something that's easy to sell. Your clients see the value in it, but you're also then growing a really profitable and simple business, without big clunky overheads and all of that stuff. It's much more lean, simple, and easy. So the first step is to position yourself in a high value space. You really want to review the current pricing that you have right now and see, is it working for you? I developed a really cool calculator that I love, that I have inside Business Jam, where my clients can plug in, what their offer is, what their revenue goal is, and then it spits out a whole lot of numbers. It basically tells them what their funnel looks like at the moment in terms of, well, this is how many leads you need, this is how many opt-ins you need, and how big an audience you need to be playing in. And so if none of those things are looking reasonable or even doable at all, then okay, well, you need to change something, right? So either we're aiming way too high with the revenue goal, maybe we've just started out and we're trying to reach $1 million, or the price of your offer is probably too low and we need to look at it. Or maybe we need to change the offer and change the whole funnel structure. So that's fine. You don't have to. Maybe it's one tweak that we make, as in, guess what? If we change the number here, then everything else changes. How much easier does it look? So many examples of how just a shift in the offer value can reduce the amount of pressure on the marketing and sales system of a business, because suddenly it's like, well, these numbers are really doable. They're so easy. I don't need to be posting 5 times a day in order to reach that. You can set up a very simple, easy marketing and sales system. But there are many different variables that we look at and many levers that you can pull in what you have already. And whether you know it or not, you do already have a sales system. If you're selling any service and you have people buying it, even if you don't think that you intentionally designed one, you do have a sales system of sorts. It may not be very functional, it may not be very effective or efficient, especially if you haven't designed it intentionally, but that's okay. You do have one. And so actually assessing what it is that you have and how it's working, and the price of your offers, how realistic is that in terms of the business that you've built? That's really the first step, because it gives you the clue on where do you need to focus on first in order to see some change happening. Is it at the front? Is it at the back end? There are different places. So look, I know that while I would love to talk through it all here on the podcast, there's far too many really individual variables to talk about that make a good episode, because I'd have to do so many ifs and buts and when and depends and all of those sort of things, which is why I've built some calculators and I have some other tools that we use inside Business Jam. However, I see a lot of women struggling with pricing, and this has been a crazy year. 2025, wow, what an insane year it has been. And I've decided that I'd like to do something to just pay it forward, and also to really, put that support in for women to be able to grow and improve before the end of this year. So I've created about 7 spots in my calendar over the next few weeks, and I'm going to offer these, what I call an express pricing assessment session. It's like 20 minutes maximum. We're going to plug some of your numbers into the calculators. We're going to analyze it, talk about what it means, give you a bit of clarity and insight into your current pricing model and how it's working for you. So is it working? Is this great? You're like, yep, I'm on the right track. Or, wow, there's something here that I hadn't seen before. What do we need to change, and what's the pathway for that? So if you would like to book in and grab one of those, first and first served, I don't know how quickly they're going to go, but you are absolutely welcome. If you're a female, you've got a coaching business, a consulting business, even if you're in therapy, you run a practice, that type of business, this is what the calculators have been created and designed for you specifically with that type of business. So whether you offer one-to-one, if you have group programs, if you have a membership or an online course, all of those things do work with these tools. So you are in the right place. If that is you, then you're invited to book one in. They're absolutely free. There's no charge. There's no obligation. There is no sales pitch. Literally just going to, dive into your offers with you over 20 minutes and help you get that clarity. So I would love it if you booked in the calendar. You'll find the link for the pricing assessment chat in the show notes below. So go down. If you find a spot there, that means that there is still one available. When you don't see any, it means that they have been taken. And then you can book in and we'll go from there. So thank you so much for tuning in today. I'll be back again next week with another episode full of fun for you on She's the Business podcast. Thanks. Are you struggling to find quality clients these days? Well, in this world of instant gratification and abundance of AI-produced content, it may be feeling harder than ever to attract the sort of clients who really value your expertise, are ready to show up, ready to commit and invest in getting the results that they actually want. But it's not just about guessing, and it's not about just creating more content hoping that something sticks. There is some specific things that you can do and need to have in your business in order to attract those sort of clients. And I'm sharing them with you in my training, my free training called The Magnetic Formula. So go and grab yourself a seat for this free class and let me show you what are these 5 key things you need to have in your business so that you end up with a stream of committed, high quality clients who are ready to invest, who help you have a very thriving, flourishing business that earns you over 6 figures a year, and you do it all in very easy part-time hours. Head over to jessicaosborne.com/TMF or drop below into the show notes, click on the link and grab yourself a seat for this free training while it still exists. I'll see you there.